This is the Podcast Express, and we're talking to whoever's listening out there. Welcome to 5 Minutes of Trouble, the only podcast on the internet that discusses the John Carpenter film Big Trouble in Little China 5 minutes at a time. I'm Josh Horowitz from the Wing Kong Exchange.
And I'm your noble co-host in the passenger seat, Brett Stillo.
And this week, we have a special guest on board the Podcast Express. This is none other than Rob Heinsoo, game designer of numerous Dungeons & Dragons games, as well as the legendary Big Trouble in Little China board game. Welcome, Rob.
Hey, good to be with you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on board. I discovered the legendary Big Trouble in Little China game about 6 months ago, and was just really, really impressed with the amount of detail that was in there, the awesome artwork, all the nuances and stuff. And it sort of came to light even a couple of episodes ago because it features
Leah Chang, one of the female Wing Kong guards,
as a card. And that was just awesome. In fact, we had Leah on the show, and she was just floored by the fact that she had her own card.
That's great. Is she the woman with the staff, actually? Is she the staff guard?
Yeah, she's the one with the smoking
Magic staff.
Uh-huh.
She is the badass in the game. I had a friend, my best friend from college the other day texted me, because I'd given him a copy of the game and he was playing with his family, and he's like, "Okay, we love the game, but seriously, smoke staff guard?" And then he cursed a long line of cursing. Yeah, because that's an example of how fun it was to go ahead and just look at a crazy movie and figure out a game mechanic that made that card hard to play. In that case, you have to sort of double up because she's going to hit the first card that goes after her in a way with a piece of smoke that stuns you but doesn't take you out. So you kind of have to hit her with two of the same named character. So that was a fun one.
Yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad you got to. Did you get to give her a card too? Did she?
Well, I took a scan of it and I sent it to her so she had a
Perfect.
chance to see it, and she just thought that was awesome.
Excellent. That's really funny.
But legendary Big Trouble in Little China game. So just had a few questions for you, Rob, before we start with the minutes here. So first off, have you always been a Big Trouble fan, or was this something that you kind of read up on so you could do the game?
Oh, that's funny. Okay, so I think when Big Trouble in Little China came out, it must have been out long enough that it was on video. They had video stores back then. But there was somebody in the extended circle of visitors from Australia and strange wanderers who knew somebody who had a VCR, and we were house sitting for them or something. And so for the first movie ever that I had rented from a video store, I rented it to watch with my girlfriend Julia and all her friends. And it was a terrible disaster because none of them had ever seen a Hong Kong movie. I mean, we're talking 1987 or so. I mean, right around it. It was 87 or 88. I don't know which. And so in other words, the fact that it was a satire of something that no one had ever seen made it kind of fall flat. And the sound didn't work very well, so no one could actually hear the jokes very easily. And it was one of those disasters where your partner turns to you and says, "You're never renting another movie again." So, and the truth was, I hadn't really seen it. I mean, I kind of thought it was, the whole like bumbling hero thing with Jack Burton kind of irritated me a little bit, but I hadn't actually heard the jokes, or dialogue well enough to know how funny it was. And so then years later, I saw it again, and it was one of those funny times where, you have a bad experience of something, and then all of a sudden you're like, no, wait, that was actually good. And so, and from then on, I loved it. And I got involved when I was early in my gaming career, which I guess started around 94, 95 when I was really doing professional work. I got to work on a card game called Shadow Fist by Robin Laws and Jose Garcia. And then Robin's role-playing game, Feng Shui. And those were Hong Kong action movie games. Feng Shui is actually still around still. And so I really had a lot of fun learning all about Hong Kong movies and getting to design games based on them. So that's where more my fondness for Big Trouble really took off, when I really got to see a lot more of what the original source material had been.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, so who ended up approaching you to make the game?
So the actual impetus for the game this is a game that's based on a legendary system, which is a deck building system. So you make your deck is full of some really bad heroes, and you use them to buy better versions of those heroes, better versions of Jack Burton or the Pork Chop Express or even Margot or Miao Yin or Gracie, and then use those to basically fight villains. And you're all kind of on the same team, but that system was designed by a friend of mine named Devin Lowe. For Marvel superheroes, and I used a version that's quite a bit like it. But the guy at Upper Deck is the company that put the game out, named Jason Brenner, and I think the fact that the Big Trouble game exists is really down to Jason being a huge fan of the movie. I think he pushed it through at a there's one of those elements of like, if I'm going to I'm going to put words into his mouth because I really haven't talked to him about this, but I'm going to say, if I'm going to go to all the effort of like running a big gaming company, I really need to be able to make a game based on my favorite movie. I think that's what Jason did. So that's definitely how the game came to be. He really wanted to do it, and so then I got hired when Devin was too busy.
And I wonder if this was sort of brought now because of it being the 30th anniversary of Big Trouble in Little China.
I suspect so. I suspect that was part of it, and I also suspect that right when the idea to do the game came out was the start of the rumors or truth that Dwayne Johnson would play Jack Burton.
Yes, that's right.
So I think it all sort of piled on together. But I suspect in a certain way that those two facts maybe helped Jason sell it. He was going to do it anyway.
I also have a question. Was John Carpenter involved in the board game at all?
No, not at all.
So all the research was just from from watching the film. Did you have a chance to look at the screenplay or any of the behind the scenes stuff?
Perhaps if I had talked with you ahead of time.
No, you know what? From the detail on these cards, it seems like so much research was done into this. You've got all the major and minor characters. Just the level of the artwork that's involved, the mechanics. It comes straight out of the movie. It truly does feel like it belongs in that universe.
Well, I'm really glad to hear you say that. I tried to make it really playful. I wanted the design goals for how the game should feel were playful and lots of interaction between characters so that you are messing with sharing with your friend's hand for a moment or doing something that gives everybody a choice, and a monster comes out and everyone has to look at the top card of their deck. So basically really having everybody involved all the time was kind of the goal. But then with that in mind, really trying to make it feel as much like the movie and sort of creating relationships between the characters. So really, no, I just watched the movie again. I watched the movie twice and wrote a bunch of notes.
Yeah.
And the internet now makes it crazy good. Here you guys are able to go ahead and slice out 5 minutes easily, of a film, and we can watch it one little piece at a time. And the internet is full of quotes. You can go ahead and say, I would like the best quotes from Lo Fan, Big Trouble in Little China. And there they are. Yeah. And then, go and verify they actually exist. So one of the strange things about the game that I'll just mention compared to the way other games work is many games like this use a lot of flavor text where they sort of make all the jokes in the flavor text. And I acknowledge that something odd about the game is I didn't do much flavor text. And that was partly because I'd used the jokes in a way in the names of the cards and in the mechanical ways they were interacting.
Yeah.
So that adding more flavor text didn't exactly feel necessary. It was sort of, and so, yeah.
Yeah, Brett, you haven't had a chance to really see the game yet. I have to drive up to San Francisco and bring the game. We'll have to play it sometime.
Well, I'll meet you halfway in Visalia.
Visalia, exactly.
Yeah, and we'll just spend a weekend playing the game. I'm down with that.
But there's some cards there, like, we keep talking about the joke about the manager of the month, how Rain, he wears that Western garb.
Yeah, that was fun. I got to, the brief is that if there were things I could add a little bit, just to make sense of things or to have fun, I could. So yes,
Yeah.
Rain is, what is he? Is he?
Well, you got VP of Operations. That's one of the
Yeah.
ones. And
Oh,
then
nice.
Thunder is Public Relations. It's just great.
Well, he's the one that's to give you a tour, smoking a cigar. Definitely public
Exactly.
relations.
Yeah.
Definitely public relations. You're right.
Yeah. What I really like though is what you were talking about, Rob, about how the heroes that are in the cards, they all start out basically as what you call mediocre heroes, and then they start to transform into real heroes, which is sort of like how it works in the film.
Yeah, definitely.
I hadn't quite put that together. Like the very first time I did the first draft, I was just using the base cards in the game. If you don't when you don't have the mediocre heroes, are people called Chang Sing warriors and Chang Sing strategists. One of them gives you a little fighting power, one of them gives you a little buying power. But really, when I stopped and thought about it, I was like, wow, every game you're playing with these dudes, and they were in a scene, and they kind of matter, but they're not really the point of the movie. And at that point, I realized, I need really mediocre versions of the main characters, and it'll be funny to go ahead and have them.
Yeah.
So you've got Egg Chen is the tour bus driver,
Right.
And Jack Burton has several versions. Like one of them is a reluctant hero, where he's a little bit better if a villain has a bystander captured, and another one is just the jerk. He can fight a little bit. At first, the jerk, to be honest, was the one character who did nothing good. He was crap. It's like, oh my god, I got the jerk, and really, that was a meta comment, like where it's sort of like, yeah, you got the jerk because the game designer's a jerk, and he's so that was not good enough, and so we changed that to be that if you haven't fought any villains yet, he's a tiny bit more powerful, and so you're happy to have him once. He'll help you once, and after that, not so much.
Yeah, but there are certain cards that you have in the deck where you have the bug monster, for instance, and just like it is in the film, it eats your Chang Sing allies and then it disappears. It's just perfect.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
It does. And then the more Chang Sing allies it eats, the more likely it is towards the end of the game that when it comes out, because it did disappear if it ate one of the little zero cost guys,
Right.
it's going to eat something you really care about. And honestly, that's my favorite card in the set. I know it makes me a terrible person, but the kind of things that happen when that card comes out, like the look on people's faces, you've got to be kidding. So,
and you threw in some really wacky scenarios too. I mean, there's stuff like kill Uncle Chu or flood Chinatown with mediocrity. I mean, it's really cool stuff. I mean, for our listeners who haven't had a chance to pick up the legendary Big Trouble in Little China game, I very much recommend it. I mean, it is an advanced game. It sort of has a game mechanic that's similar to games like Dominion. But if you're a fan and you just want to try something new and check out the amazing artwork, check it out. Legendary Big Trouble in Little China.
can I tell one quick story about Kill Uncle Chu?
Okay, go for it.
Sure.
So the funny part about that is the same girlfriend who really, really hated the film was an acupuncture student and a really, really, really good acupuncturist. Good enough that when they had like visiting dignitaries, essentially, of the acupuncture world come to visit the school, she was the person who toured them around. And one of the visiting dignitaries was the actor who played Uncle Chu.
Oh, nice.
Because in real life, that guy was an acupuncturist in herbal medicine, a doctor of herbal medicine. Now, to make the story perfect, he was a total lech. I mean, lechery incarnate. And clearly, everywhere he went to schools, he hoped to be hooked up with the hot young acupuncturist who would be thrilled by his LA credits. And my girlfriend was really flirty, but not actually interested in the aged superstar. But it was so funny because when I was like, as soon as I got to like do the game, like I was like, okay, I'm gonna have a scenario called Kill Uncle Chu. No doubt about it.
Man, kindly wise Uncle Chew was hitting on your girlfriend.
It's good.
Yeah,
good
in that
times.
era, I can picture him saying, mid to late ages, "Hey, you've seen me on Falcon Crest, right? You're a big Falcon Crest guy?"
I think so. No, look, I wasn't there. I was not in the room. I heard the reports afterwards, but yes, Falcon Crest was definitely mentioned. Yep.
Perfect.
So so it's awesome stuff, Rob. All the stuff that that you've done for the legendary Big Trouble in Little China game. We're at the point now in this episode where we're going to start to talk about the minutes in Big Trouble in Little China, specifically minutes 90 through 95. And minutes 90 starts with Jack looking up as he tries to escape from lightning, and they end with Wang approaching Jack as he leaves the Dragon of the Black Pool. And I'm getting a little sad here, Brett. We're getting near the end of this movie.
Yeah. But on the other hand, for these 5 minutes, we're going out with a bang.
That's
There's
true.
a hell of a lot that happens in these 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Because actually this week, I actually watched the minutes. And it really helps because I now have like 3.5 pages of notes. Whoa. There's something about these 5 minutes that I noticed all kinds of things I'd never noticed before. Like, right off the bat, when we first see Kurt Russell in that chamber, we have smoke and fire in the background. And if you look carefully, it looks like Kurt's wearing a lot of eyeliner.
Oh, really?
His eyes really prominent when if you can pause or freeze frame with his hair and all that smoke in the background. He looks like he's doing an 80s music video.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
They could lip sync him singing Total Eclipse of the Heart or something.
Yeah, Total Eclipse of the Heart, or what's that? Here I go again. I'm on my. That's Jack's theme song. Was that White Lion or I'm forgetting the title, but here I go again. I'm on my own.
Right.
Yeah, that song. That's the only song on the only tape cassette in Jack's truck. He just plays that hour after hour.
He probably does have a tape cassette player in that truck.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Haven't even discussed the dashboard of the pork chop press. But this first minute, as Jack's trying to make his escape from lightning, it's very interesting. It's like a video game.
Yeah.
You've got the music. To me, sounds very.
Oh yeah, that music is really.
Da, 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 da. And
it's intense.
it just seems like Jack is faced with these tasks that are very video game. You must jump upwards, and you must catch the ledge. You must dodge lightning. Use the crossbow. It's that music, which is very frantic and, of course, synthesized. So I could picture Jack being two-dimensional and digital.
Yeah, I mean, this is sort of like the last of the boss battles in a sense, Jack versus Lightning. And under normal circumstances, he would have no chance at all. I mean, it's sort of a good thing that Lightning is a bit slow and charging up his shots, and he's not very accurate.
I laughed. I mean, I laughed so much. Just if you look at Lo Fan, the big sorceress Lo Fan, he looks tough, but his ability is that he takes one of his warriors of Lo Fan, like the battle armor Lightning, and puts them back in the deck and then makes them come out again, like because they do something nasty when they come out. The funny part about that, though, is it's actually not that tough. It's easier to beat this villain because he doesn't add more villains, and that's how I feel about these Lightning and Thunder guys. It's like they don't ever kill anybody.
Yeah.
It's like I've got lightning. It's like, and I shoot like a stormtrooper.
Yeah. That's the problem with the whole Wing Kong organization in general. I had a note about that they obviously went to the same training school that stormtroopers go to.
Yeah, impressive shots, but they never quite so accurate as they should be.
They can definitely blow holes in roofs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
You were talking about how this being sort of like a video game, and it does sort of have that feel. I mean, Jack's goal in this case is just to try to get out, but that hole in the ceiling, a normal human would not be able to get there. But Jack, he took the 6 demon bag, he took the magic potion, and so he does have the power to do that superhuman leap to the ceiling. But then again, you know what? He's still Jack. And so, of course, his legs have to dangle crazily. He doesn't make it nicely all the way up there.
Oh, yeah. It's never smooth. It's never easy.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if this was a video game, that would be a move that you would spend an hour doing. Oh, no, it's click left twice and then jump. And
I did like the line from Egg Shen, how did you get up there? And this wasn't easy.
Right.
It's like, okay.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
off screen.
When they get up to that room up there, the second floor, the floor that he actually gets back up to, if you recognize it, that's the room where Gracie got chained up by the wild man. It's that same one. If you remember how the
Okay.
wild man jumped from that tall hole in the ceiling, well, that's where Egg is right now. It's called the Mansion of
Okay.
the Disloyal. And Jack makes this comment that the whole place is melting. Now, if we recall from the last minutes that we did, when we see the sort of like the lava coming from the ceiling, this was intended in the screenplay to be a whole sequence where there was lava and things were melting and smoke and fire to sort of make it more impressive than it actually sort of turned out to be. That's probably a budgetary thing, but if you look at even the storyboards, and I'll try to see if I can put that up on the truck stop on the Facebook page. It was supposed to be a melting sort of like apocalyptical type of scene that they were escaping from.
And that takes us back to the prologue, where what exactly is the district attorney's line? He says something, can you explain how 3 city blocks explode, or but he is alluding to something we never see in the movie, and that's there's a big hole in the ground in Chinatown.
That's interesting. I think you're right, Brett. Originally, I was thinking that the whole talk about the half a city block and the ball of green flame, I thought he was referring to the white tigers, but no, it does make more sense that it would be probably the Wing Kong. I mean, you remember how when we get to the end of all this, there's going to be fire trucks and police cars. So yeah, maybe that's what the lawyer was talking about.
It's also an interesting line because they'd filmed the movie, and as you know, the prologue was added afterwards by the studio.
Right.
So why even have that line other than it gets the audience's attention? Hey, there's going to be a big explosion at the end. Stay tuned. Now, there's something I want to bring up, and this brings a question to Rob. In your game, is there a crossbow card?
There are a whole bunch of cards that are not in the game. There is no crossbow, and even more, there's no oh God, am I going to get the number right? 6 demon bag?
Mm-hmm.
I get slammed for that all the time by friends and strangers on the internet, probably, for all I know. But yeah, no 6 demon bag, no crossbow. My wife, Lisa, was the main playtester, and she added a card called Sleeveless Jack.
Yes.
So we do have Jack's sex appeal. So we have Jack's sex appeal. No crossbow.
His bare shoulders have magic powers.
Kind of did, yeah, exactly.
A charm spell.
This is like the last chance, I think, in the movie we get to see the wonderful costumes that the 2 brides have.
Yes.
The Goodnight Brides. And I missed the minutes when it was the test of the Burning Blade. But I bet that if they do make a remake, when those brides are doing the test of the Burning Blade, they will finish knowing awesome kung fu. I don't know if that would be my hope. And so
I like
when
that.
it did that in the game. And so yeah, I'm hoping for if there's a remake, then in these last scenes, it won't be Jack necessarily doing the big jumps. I hope it's the brides. That would be fun.
Yeah, so it's very Matrix style. So once they go through that ceremony, now suddenly they know kung fu.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
I like that too. That works for me. But yeah, I never really noticed or paid great attention to Egg's crossbow.
Yeah.
Which is a real cool, it's like a James Bond gadget. They're able to escape up the line, and I mean that's great kid stuff.
Yeah, when I saw this movie as a kid, I thought that thing was really cool. But I was just wondering now, I mean, is that a real thing? Having a crossbow that has some sort of a winching mechanism that can pull you up. I mean, if that's the case, how would it work? I mean, from what we see, there's this arrow that hits the floor, it pulls apart, reveals this kind of 3-pulley system, this very thin rope, and then Egg pulls a trigger, and that causes the rope to pull the arrows up. So how would that work, do you guys think?
I could kind of see if it was anchored enough, it does in a sense create like a little tiny, if you picture it being sort of like an elevator, and the line pulls you up. But there's certain probably factors in physics where it wouldn't work. But this is where maybe if we could call up James Liu, who may have, we had James Liu, the stunt coordinator and co-producer, on a few episodes back. And he, as I recall, Josh, he designed a lot of the weapons you see.
Yes.
He said, some of these crazy exotic weapons actually function. They actually work. I wouldn't be surprised if that crossbow is maybe in James's collection. And, yeah, I use that all the time at my house.
Yeah, that's one of the things where I think it'd be probably cool to call Mythbusters and see if they could do an episode where the technology of Big Trouble in Little China and what they would need to do, how big a heavy motor they would need to attach to the crossbow to actually pull the heroes
Yeah, I think
up.
actually that's what you're talking about. It's like the Egg Chen doll in that scene was replaced by a very, very, very metal piece and a wedge, probably. So yeah, if we ever do an expansion, I've just wrote crossbow.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Nice.
Excellent.
What
Expansion
it
pack.
does. That's right.
2017 expansion pack.
Now, in the screenplay, it's a little bit different how this is done. There are a lot of different scenes in the first draft of the W.D. Richter screenplay. In that one, the heroes have to climb the sword ladder that Gracie and Miao Yin had to climb during that burning blade ceremony. So there's like a sort of interesting thing where they're trying to be very careful not to cut their hands as they go up, but a little bit different.
Yeah.
I can understand why they changed, especially. Yeah, was Lightning still chasing them when they did that?
Yeah,
Okay,
still chasing.
yeah.
I mean, this is from actually from a previous episode when we were talking about the whole burning blade ceremony. It was different in the screenplay. It wasn't them holding on to blades and floating up. They had to climb this really tall sword ladder while they were in their trance. And so because they cut that, they must have cut it here as well. But I do like the crossbow, so I'm happy with that change.
And again, to me, it's a bit of a video game illusion. At this point in the game, you need the crossbow.
Right.
You don't have the crossbow at this point. You got to go back to, this particular chamber where the crossbow was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if by terrible accident you decide to use the thunder gem, the boom gem, and throw it down instead of the crossbow. Terrible!
Oh, it ends right there. Yeah.
No, I know, it's over. Restart. No.
I like the part in here where we get to see more of the lightning effects as lightning ascends through the floor.
Yeah,
awesome animation and really cool music too. I mean, this is the height of the score, I think, from John Carpenter. Just the sort of the exciting repeating synth music, as they're trying to get away. Cool stuff.
Really, yeah. I was just going to add to what you said. They saved the best for last. With the lightning effect, that close-up where you see the lightning squirming and zooming around his eyeballs.
Mm-hmm.
That was particularly cool. Again, I think back to, we've compared it to the scene of the Emperor with his blue lightning and shooting Luke. And that was 3 years earlier not Empire Strikes Back.
Return
Star
of the Jedi.
Wars. And they're going to call me Return of the Jedi. But, they had 3 years to really perfect that effect, and we see it here. It's even more impressive.
And then we get Lightning's sneer as he charges up to fry Wang Chi to a crisp. Get to see that again. And then all that talk about the Buddhas that we've had in all these previous episodes, all those Buddhas broken in the film, lead up to one final drop. And we get that uh-oh moment from Lightning.
Yeah.
Splaying across his face and eyes. And then we get our big crush in flames. But here's the part where some people have noticed they have a little Easter egg in this film, and it comes from the animated lightning that we see on the wall. You actually see two Chinese symbols that remain in the lightning as it dissipates when lightning goes down. And I am told that the one that you see on the wall, the last one that appears, is the Chinese symbol for Carpenter.
Ha! Signed his work.
Well, I'd like to think maybe it was John himself who dropped that Buddha.
Yeah.
Just dropped it. And again, to me, that's like a video game bit. It's like only the Buddha dropping on lightning will stop him. So you have to have that particular Buddha. But great exit for lightning. Mm-hmm. I've never noticed before two things. It looks like when the Buddha hits him, you do see like a head sort of getting compacted.
Oh.
split second, and then he falls out of frame down the hole just before that explosion. I think
Maybe.
you hear a little scream,
Yeah.
and it just makes me wonder once again: were the storms actually humans who were endowed with these demonic powers? And this is Lightning in his last moment, screaming out his humanity, and it sucks. I made a bad decision.
Yeah, were the Storms just Wing Kong employees, one of which became manager of the month and then was rewarded by becoming a Storm?
Yeah, that kind of works for me. I could see Lopan summoning down these demons, these supernatural characters, but I kind of prefer the thought that they're executives. They want to move up the ladder, and Lopan says, "Okay, this is where you have to go. If you want the key to the executive washroom, you have to lose part of your humanity and become a Storm."
But you get these really cool hats.
Oh, you get super cool hats, and you get storm powers. So,
Oh, you know what? Speaking of the hats, Rob, question for you. The artwork that is in the Big Trouble board game is awesome. I mean, it looks like it's all original stuff. Who did you end up working with on that?
Upper Deck. There are games that where I get to handle the art, and there are other games with other companies where I don't. And this is a game where Upper Deck handles all the art themselves.
Oh.
I can't remember the name of the art director right this second. I'd have to look at the credits. But I believe the artists are either, some of them work at Upper Deck, but others were probably contractors. I think if you look at some of the art, it doesn't look precisely like some of the characters. And I think that's because the rights to Big Trouble in Little China don't necessarily, this is a guess, okay? I'm not positive. My guess is that they don't fully have the rights to use the exact images of Kurt Russell. Or Kim Cattrall, which is why the Jack and Gracie characters look something like Kurt Russell, but not precisely. Because if you look at a lot of the other art, it's oh yeah, that's them. Perfect, right? When they want to nail the exact look of a character, they can. And so I'm pretty sure, based on other things I've dealt with in gaming, that that's what happened with some of the characters. Yeah, so Upper Deck did it. Yep, and the battle armor. You're right. The battle armor characters is really cool art. They lived up to the special effects on those guys.
Yeah, definitely. But moving along in the minutes, we are now back at the Wing Kong Exchange, and we get to see this old school alarm bell ringing.
Right.
That was sort of an interesting little shot.
Yeah. Wasn't that the one they fixed earlier? We're here to fix your telephone systems and your alarms. Okay. Oops.
Very large telephone bell.
Yep.
But what we're seeing here is a classic action movie trope.
Yes.
The installation is under siege. It seems like it's about to blow up. Everyone's running around. Alarms are going off. I mean, from Dr. No to Spaceballs. It's emergency, escape, run around. Again, we don't actually see the place blow up, but everyone's running around this place is going to blow in any second. We got to get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah, we get this another one of those fun continuous Steadicam shots that follow the heroes around as they run to escape. It's a really good effect. Puts the audience sort of in the same, the same level as the heroes. My question at this point, though, is if you see who's running, they're missing the Chang Sing. What happened to the Chang Sing? They were winning.
Yeah. Of course, they survived.
Yeah, they must have gotten out through the roof somehow.
Yeah, or maybe here I'll play screenwriter. There were some Wing Kong fanatics left, and so Chang Sing #1 said, "We'll take on these guys. You go get Jack and Wang, help them out, Egg. We got this." So they're elsewhere kicking some truck air horn.
Well, I think that there probably wasn't enough room in the back of the Pork Chop Express, and so it would have been awkward if all the Chang Sing were there with them, and then they don't know where to sit.
So how many times watching the movie did it take to realize the Chang Sing weren't there?
Yeah, It was only when I reviewed it this morning, actually, that I realized, wait a minute.
Yeah. So I like the movie sleight of hand. It's like the story. The story did not require them. They were sacrificed to the story.
Yeah.
And it all happened so fast we don't even know it. Just that wonderful storytelling style.
The other alternate ending could be that they run into the female Wing Kong guards. There's this moment of tension, and then they all look at each other and say, "Let's go party." So
they just walk off hand in hand.
Yeah, like, hey, you know what? Why fight? Let's all go to the Dragon of the Black Pool and hang out.
That would be the classic comedic ending.
Yeah.
It has to happen seconds after the last Eddie and Margot, though. So
yeah. So it's Leah Chang and her friends and James Liu and his friends, and they say, hey, let's, Lopan's dead. There's no need for us to fight anymore. Let's go to a dance club. Let's hang out.
We lost a lot of warriors earlier in this film at a funeral. We need some replacements.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then they open the door, and then Jack casually says, "There's my truck. My truck."
Did you expect Jack to open the door? I sort of expected him to put his foot on it and kick and kick and kick, and for it to not open. So I was relieved when it opened on the first try.
Yeah, we're at the point in the movie now where Jack he drank the magic potion. He's done the heroic deed. I think his bumbling can sort of be put aside for now. So he does it the first time. I think we're kind of accepting of that at this point.
My question there, is that the same giant sliding door where my favorite gag took place about 20 minutes earlier? We may be trapped.
Oh.
Because it led me to wonder. He sort of looks around like he's expecting to see Ao Leong again. But then, if that's the same door and they went through it to escape before, then where was the Pork Chop Express that time? So,
I don't know.
Yeah, just a minor point. Maybe he's just leaving the hell of many sliding doors. I don't know. But the main thing is, yes, we have a beautiful reunion with the the Pork Chop Express.
Right. Yeah, no, very convenient that it happens to be there, but it ties things up nicely. Yeah. And it gives them a means of escape, because then the Wing Kong security guards, they appear and they start to open up on Jack, where he runs away with his superhuman speed, avoiding the bullets. And here's a spot where they talk about this on the DVD or the Blu-ray commentary. If you watch as Kurt Russell runs past this kind of panel on the wall, and a squib goes off, a little explosion, and very close to him. And apparently this was shot off too early. And it came very close to really harming Kurt Russell when it was done. But thankfully he was okay. And it's an impressive looking shot. But I think if you look sort of frame by frame, you can see that Kurt Russell's kind of wincing as he goes past, because that probably was pretty hot. Might have even hurt a little bit.
I'm glad Kurt was all right. But yeah, I'd be scared.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great on film, but at the time, maybe he had a talk with somebody.
Yeah, no, it could be.
Yeah. And again, we see it's the guards are shooting like stormtroopers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It's probably the same Wing Kong guards too. They just have different costumes on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the same guys who couldn't hit Egg's bus earlier.
Right.
They're just lousy shot.
But then Egg throws his magic grenade at the security guard. Now, Rob, what did you end up calling these grenades in your game?
I called them boom gems.
Nice.
Ooh.
Yeah, no, they play a good role in the card game, and they play a good role here. Here is, I think, my first instance of noticing the magic world interacting with the real world. I mean, we sort of get that at the very beginning of the movie when Egg does his lightning in the lawyer's office, but here's one where the magic stuff that he was using in that whole arcade sequence, he's doing it against the security guards in the real world, and it works. They go flying. Kind of interesting.
Yep. And how?
Yeah. Yeah, they do go flying. Jack finds his spare key, starts up the truck, and then we get a line here. And it's sort of a famous line. He's like, Gracie asks, "What was that?" And then Jack says, 6.9 on the Richter scale. But I mean, if you think about it, you look and there, it's like, why is he saying that line? Well, it turns out that in the screenplay, an earthquake happens here. the guards actually don't show up until the heroes get in the truck. Egg doesn't throw a grenade. They're shooting at the Pork Chop Express, but then as soon as Jack starts it up, the whole camera shakes and the building shakes, and then the security guards get tossed all around. They're hanging onto the walls, and that's why he says it's 6.9 on the Richter scale. It actually did start an earthquake.
Oh, okay. And again, that's that's an allusion to we were going to have a much bigger finish where we might see the building, blowing up in a big green ball of flame or something. But
so this is the Tank Girl problem. Tank Girl ran out of money, and its big finale happened as a dark, completely black scene with people talking. There was no climactic battle. So no, clearly Big Trouble was in far, far better shape. But yeah, thank you for telling that. I thought it was kind of like a low impact engine turn on for 6.9 on the Richter scale, but I was willing to give Jack credit just because of his love for his truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I just thought it was his way of saying, you hear that, Gracie? You hear all that under the hood? That's 6.9 on the Richter scale. That just seems like such a Jack line. I also wondered if that was maybe a little hello to the screenwriter.
Oh, right, the Richter scale. That's funny.
That could have been Kurt Russell's way of saying, hey, thanks for writing great lines for me, man.
Right. Well, they and then it looks like from the shot that Jack is, he's gunning it forward, but no, he actually peels out in reverse, breaking through the metal garage door. I like his little apology there.
Yeah, definitely.
Seems like the right direction to go, actually.
Yeah.
And then the cops and the fire trucks appear. When I first saw this, I used to think there was going to be some sort of big final car chase between the cops and Jack Burton, but no, they just turn right. Everything's good until he hits the red light, and then everybody gets to take a deep breath, and it's over. And we finally.
I actually loved the interplay of characters at the end because everything's over, but Gracie is giving Jack advice, and she's right every freaking time. She's telling him how to, start the car. She's telling him, green light, and she's right again. And it's like, you just get this little preview of, oh, this is what the relationship would be like.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
And I think, the whole fact that, she's in charge and Jack is barely coping again was very funny, very hilariously done.
He seems to be decompressing here because this is minute 230 to 250 here. It's an interesting sequence because we are back outside in daylight.
That was weird.
It's jarring. I think the last time we're outside in a real world setting is minute 15 or maybe minute 20. So we've had about over an hour of dark passageways and hells and giant arcades and what have you. So suddenly it's sunny out, police cars and fire trucks. And suddenly, Gracie yells red light and, Jack hits the brakes and boom, that's it. The adventure is over.
Yeah.
We're out. We're done. It's kind of an amazing anticlimax. And in a way it's kind of cool because there is no cliched huge fireball. It's just bink. And I think that's one reason why Jack's kind of sitting there. He's like the rest of us. Oh, it's over. We made it. We got out. And Wang and Miao Yin's kiss. It's strangely underplayed. You almost don't see it at first. You see Gracie looking at them before you see them kissing. And, everyone's just kind of, I think it's kind of cool that everyone's just kind of sitting there. They don't know what to say or do next. And then, Gracie says, okay, green light. You can go now.
Yeah.
We can re-enter the real world.
I guess that's what happens when you survive a suicide mission.
Yeah.
Yeah. Against storms and ghosts. And
Now, I have to mention here that there is a pretty famous deleted scene at this point. And if you have the DVD or the Blu-ray, you can actually see this scene. It happens right after he says, it's a green light, you can go. But then at this point, Jack sees the red Firebird belonging to the Lords of Death in front of him. And there's a shot where you can see the Lords of Death. They're inside. They've got the goggles on. They're drinking beer. They're listening to the radio, and they kind of pull up to like an area of the wharf near San Francisco Bay. They don't notice Jack, and Jack, he guns his Pork Chop Express. He knows what he's got to do, and what does he do? He totally rear ends the Firebird and he sends it plunging into San Francisco Bay.
Oh, God.
Yes.
And then it sinks. And Jack says, "I feel a lot better now. I really do."
Oh my God.
Yeah. And the weird thing is, it's like if you look at the characters that are there in the truck with him, they're not horrified. They're kind of like, "Oh, yeah, it's okay. This has had to be done." But it's a very creepy act of vindication. And I can see why they didn't want to keep that in the film. It's just, it adds a kind of a mean side to Jack. And that's probably why they cut it.
Oh, I don't know. I'll side with our heroes. That those three guys. What are they? One Ear and Skinny Joe and
Needles.
They had great names. Needles. And One Ear. They were creeps. They beat up Jack at the airport, and they tried to run him over. And they started this whole mess. If you think about way back to like minute 20 when they kidnapped Miao Yin. They aren't sent there by Lo Pan. They aren't part of some nefarious scheme. They're just a couple of punks trying to make a quick score and kidnap a poor innocent woman and bring her into slavery. So of course Gracie's probably going to be into that. It's like, yeah. I hope they couldn't get out of the car.
That's true. Yeah, they did recognize them from before, so okay.
Yeah,
so Brett, I hate the more you enthuse over that, the more I side with your co-host.
They deserve it.
Yeah, Gracie would be into it too. I'm like,
yeah, maybe I pushed.
Maybe not.
But see, now I'm really going off the edge, and maybe Gracie actually pushes down on the accelerator.
Yeah.
They deserved it, Jack.
Actually, it would have been more appropriate if Miao Yin had done that. I mean, she's the one who had to go through all this. Yeah.
True.
She pushes the accelerator down.
I think I understand why John Carpenter or the screenwriter would have wanted to have some closure with the Lords of Death, because really, they just they never get messed with. And I'm glad they didn't include that scene. But I certainly do. This is another time where if you were doing a remake, I bet you would try to find some closure with them somehow. But I doubt it would be by killing them with your truck.
Yeah. In a modern version, I think you're right, Rob. They would somehow conveniently have the Lords of Death in the final battle. So you'd see you'd get your closure there. It wouldn't be really necessary. But yeah, really, I agree with you guys. They're punks. Somebody else will take them out, or they'll just crash that car themselves.
Yeah.
So we don't need it. What we end up with is this great transition from them sitting in the truck, somewhat bewildered, to a celebration scene.
Yes, back at the Dragon of the Black Pool. Eddie's got a brand new slick plaid jacket to replace the ripped one from before. And everybody is celebrating with beer, wine, and Chinese food. What a great way to end end the film. Notice Margot's got a cigarette and a beer. Very sort of 80s woman.
That.
Yeah.
That. Yeah.
And we see Miao Yin wearing her Western dress.
Yeah, she has arrived in America finally after an hour and a half detour, risking life and limb. I got to say, the first time I saw this, there was such a change and everyone was so relieved and there's a celebration. When I first saw this, I was expecting, okay, this is the false ending. Somebody's going to bring a cake in and then Lo Pan's going to pop out of it. You thought I was dead. There was going to be one last twist, one last surprise, or maybe, I don't know, the Yaren shows up.
Oh,
that'd be weird.
Wait, we gotta save it.
I know. I mean, I know we still have episode 20, but there was I did get a sense, and you can kind of still see it, where this is one of those classic false endings. Oh, we're alive. We made it. There's no possible danger. We have our guard down. Let's leave our weapons over there.
Well, everybody is certainly relaxing. Jack is wearing his poncho again, and then we see a little side shot of Egg smoking from that pipe. He's finishing everything off, and then Egg, he takes off. The whole restaurant gets silent as Jack talks to him. My question here is, if Egg is not going to go to China, where do you think he's going to go on his long vacation?
What's funny about that? There was a long space of time where I hadn't seen this movie. And so when I watched it again a couple years back for the first time in many years, I think I think it was because of his shirt. I thought there was going to be a joke there about Egg going to Hawaii. He has the whole speech about China is always with me. It's in my heart. So I'm off to Maui. Maybe also because of the comedic tone of the movie, I wanted there to be a joke. And, this is Jack saying goodbye to Egg, and it's a pretty sincere moment. Neither of them say, thank you or great working with you or I'll always remember you. But, this is a nice, quiet moment between these two guys. Yeah. And there's no need for a joke. So I guess, Egg can wear whatever shirt he wants to. But
did you say the prologue got added later?
Yes.
Studio added it. Okay. All right. Because that, I was like, oh no vacation for him. He got grabbed by the authorities. But but that wasn't the original plot by the. Okay.
Yeah. Well, actually, you know what I did? I was curious about that because you see Egg disappear into a fog bank, very mysterious. Great exit for Egg.
Yes.
I'd like to think he created that fog bank. But I did go back and look at the prologue because here in this scene, we see Egg wearing, an Aloha shirt with a crazy checkered sport coat. And then you go back to the prologue, he's wearing some kind of a dark suit. Okay. So let's just say he got his vacation
and came
back, and then he had a subpoena. Kind of a bummer, but at least Egg deserves a vacation.
Yes, he does. But basically everything wraps up. A lot of closure. We've got Margot flirting with Eddie. We have Miao Yin with Wang. Notice that they have a binder open. Already Miao Yin's looking into his accounting books to put it in order. That was the whole reason why Wang brought her to America. And Wang, he's a nice guy. He gives nothing or triple. But I like Jack's response to "you earned it." Instead of just saying thanks, he's like, "You're right, I did."
Yeah.
Typical Jack.
Again, I think that's Carpenter playing with an old cliche. Twarn't nothing. He doesn't take a reward. It's like, come on. And I think when he says that line, it's very sincere. There's none of his bravado. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. This. And ow.
Then we get the very last section of these 5 minutes where Jack offers to give up the trucker life and settle down with Gracie, if his lines are to be believed. Do you think this was sarcastic?
No. There's this final dialogue between Jack and Gracie. Again, it's another kind of Howard Hawks moment. And they're kind of laying it on the table. They definitely like each other. He's toying with the idea of giving up his life. She's toying the idea of giving up her life as a lawyer and crusader and going on the road with him. But even though he's the first to say it, you'd probably get tired of me, which again is kind of you never hear James Bond say that.
Well, he does say, "Let me think about it," though.
Yeah,
he kind of leaves the door open at least.
Yeah, there's a door, leaves the door open. So, and Gracie she does have a hopeful look. But, once again, it's a cliche. I just say, he's got his saddlebags over his shoulder, an allusion to the original Western script. But, he's leaving. A man's got to do what a man's got to do. And I was just thinking, well, what do you got to do? Are you going to go herd cattle? You're going to go start
Well, what he's got to do in most movies is kiss her goodbye. Yeah. But this is Big Trouble in Little China. This is not your average movie. And so does he kiss her goodbye? Nope.
But I think that's symbolic too, because I don't think they've had time to even sort of consummate their relationship. I think, I think they're leaving it way open for the future. I mean, we can assume that there will be another truckload of pigs sometime in the next few months. And so there's that hopeful look by Gracie that, he'll be coming back with pigs. But, I think Jack's line of no is he's back to where he was in the beginning.
Yes.
With the beer bottle. He is back in his world. So there's that quiet self-confidence that Jack had.
Yeah.
So he's going back to his world where he's most comfortable, and he's kind of got that old swagger. He's got the hat again. Another thing I like is, Gracie's last line. What is it? See you around, Burton. That reminds me of Karen Allen in Nepal and Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Right. Yeah.
See you tomorrow, Indiana Jones.
Right. See you tomorrow, Indiana Jones. See you tomorrow, Jack Burton.
Yeah. So I think it leaves the door open to the sequel, which will come out hopefully in 1988.
Yeah.
Of all things, Margot ended up with a boy.
Yeah. Margot wins.
And I was kind of amused by the fact that in the film, when Margot is basically like, okay, want to come back to my place and help me with a title, they don't linger on giving Eddie a reaction. Well, most of the time, like, you're filming something, you're like, okay, now you react, but they didn't do that. Like they didn't give him the chance. So I was amused. Like, did they not trust his acting, or did they just not care? They're just gonna. The offer is made. We know what's happening. We'll leave it there.
Yeah. That's interesting. It gave me the impression that, Eddie, who kind of swaggers through this, and he's a cool guy. He's got a Cadillac. That when Margot invites him over, and she's a little bit flirtatious, she gives him a little wink there, or not a wink, but she has her eyes are sparkling.
Oh yeah,
that quick cut is also in a way Eddie going, "Oh shucks."
Yeah, pretty much. I think Eddie's bluff is being called in a way. It's like, okay, yep. One of the things in the game was that they really wanted me to have Margot as a character, which at first I had trouble with because it's kind of really, they said, no, you got to do it. So I really worked at it to do it. And I think this is another one of those times where if there's a remake, either Margot gets real parts or leave her out, So, but the fact that they did give her a good line right at the end was really nice for the standard comedy where everybody hooks up at the end of comedies. And as you say, but in this one, not Jack and Gracie.
Yeah.
Shock.
A bit of a tease to the audience. Possibly another reason why audiences didn't know what to expect or, didn't know how to react because, again, the hero leaving at the end is an old bit, especially in Westerns. But, they leave that hope a little more evident, like I'll be back come the spring or something like that.
Yeah, right.
So see ya. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, this one it would be like the old Western version would be like, I'll be back in the spring, and maybe at that point you'll kill all the cattle, sell the ranch, buy another horse, and we'll go somewhere. It's like, whoa.
I mean, it's wide open and it's a little ambiguous, and like I said, this time watching it, I realized, I think Jack and Gracie is the closest they ever got was rubbing against each other in the storm drain. So I don't think they've had time to go any further. And, Gracie's looking really great there, and I think she's kind of ready. I think she's kind of wants to play the same card Margot is.
Yep.
You want to come to my place and look at my law books. But, then Jack is just, well, gotta go. You're just going to get sick of me anyway.
Well, gentlemen, that wraps up our 5 minutes. Rob, why don't you tell us a little bit about how people can find you and some of the stuff that you're working on?
Sure, thanks. You can find me at robhainsoo.blogspot.com, where I blog sometimes, and also at Rob Heinsoo on Twitter. And I spend most of my time these days working on a role-playing game I designed with Jonathan Tweet called 13th Age, which is a sort of our take on the classic D20 fantasy role-playing game with a whole lots of indie storytelling stuff too. And I've got a bunch of new card games and things coming out next year, but they haven't actually been announced. So I will be quiet about it
All
for a
right.
moment. Yeah, so I guess the next big thing will be a role-playing game called 13th Age in Galantha. And yep, so there'll be some new card games later.
Cool.
Oh, awesome.
It all sounds super cool.
Yeah, no, neat stuff. For our audience, you can visit us at 5minutesoftrouble.com. Please check us out on Facebook at 5 Minutes of Trouble and Twitter at 5 Minutes Trouble. We also have our truck stop on Facebook for discussions about the podcast. And we're on Stitcher. We ask if you guys can please tell your friends about this podcast. Give us a nice rating on iTunes if you can, and subscribe. Though we only really have perhaps one more episode here, so we're kind of wrapping things up here. But I do want to give a shout out to some of the other Minute podcasts out there. Of course, Star Wars Minute is in full effect right now. Indiana Jones Minute will be, if they haven't started up already with Temple of Doom, they probably will soon. Also want to give a shout out to the Fifth Element, another one of the new movies by Minutes.
Crystal Beth.
Yeah, thing with Crystal Beth. So please check that out.
Airport Minute. Let's shout out to Jim
Yes,
O'Kane and Mark.
Jim's Airport Minute, of course. Yes. So many good ones out there.
Go to moviesbyminute.com because there's one being added, I think, every week. And we know of a few others. 2017 is going to be a big year for Movies by Minute.
Oh, definitely. Well, Rob, wanted to thank you so much for coming on the show. It was great having you,
thanks,
and
Rob.
Hearing all these cool insights about the board game. And I hope you had a
That
good
was
time.
really fun, and I'm so psyched that I got to come in at a really climactic time that covered the range of Hong Kong movies. Yep.
Very good. Well, everybody else, this is the Podcast Express signing off. Tune in next week for another 5 Minutes of Trouble.